Hi, my name is Jim Shelton, and today I want to delve into the biblical model of the church as a spirit-empowered community of disciples following Jesus and fulfilling his mission. Let's explore this together. You see, after the ascension of Jesus, the early church was gathered together to pray and wait for the Holy Spirit to be poured out. In Acts 2:4, we find that God sent wind and fire among them, and all of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. We know that the same experience is for all believers today because in Ephesians 5:18, Paul urges every Christian to be filled with the Holy Spirit. Acts 1:8 tells us the ultimate goal of being filled with the Spirit is to empower us to be witnesses to those around us and all over the world. It's like driving a car with power steering. Believe it or not, any car can be driven without it, but how much better and more effective is our driving with it? With his empowerment, we are much more effective witnesses. Paul explains in 1 Corinthians 12:18 that the church is like a body. The human body has systems and parts that support life. In the same way, each part of the body of Jesus should be full of life, empowered by the Holy Spirit, not a lifeless body just made up of inactive parts. This is very important. A human body needs two things: systems and life. Another useful analogy is a river. Can you imagine a river that just had riverbanks but no water? It wouldn't be a river at all. Can you imagine if it had water but no banks to guide it? Well, that would just be a stagnant pool that would quickly dry up. A river also needs two things: an outpouring of water, life, and systems to guide this flow. Life and systems, systems and life. We see this in a river, we see this in a human body, and in the same way, the Church of Jesus needs both the flow of the Holy Spirit and systems of the church to guide this flow into the ends of the earth. May we embrace the flow of the Holy Spirit just as riverbanks guide a mighty river. Over 100 years ago, God sent an outpouring of his Holy Spirit in the Azusa Street revival. Great Spirit-empowered church denominations like the Assemblies of God can find their roots in this great outpouring. Author George O. Wood explains the Azusa Street revival, how it demonstrates this important framework of life and systems, and over 100 years later, we see the fruit of millions of salvations that have been documented. First, God gives power and life. We call this spirit empowerment. He also gives wisdom and systems for planning and processes. Both of these contribute to a healthy ministry framework like the river and body analogy, but more importantly for the church. Alton Garrison, author of A Spirit-Empowered Church, poses two very important questions that guide us in this Acts 2 model. First, he asks, personally, are you hungry for more of God? And I would ask you, have you surrendered your life to the Lordship of Jesus and been filled with the Holy Spirit as Paul urges you in Ephesians 5:18? Or as John the Baptizer calls it, have you been baptized in the Holy Spirit? John declared in Mark 1:8 that I baptize you with water, but he, meaning Jesus, will baptize you in the Holy Spirit. In both instances, that word baptizo means to be immersed, submerged, or overwhelmed. When I was baptized in water, I was completely immersed and overwhelmed by the water, and as a sign of what Jesus was doing in my life, I came out of that water. When I prayed and asked God for the baptism in the Holy Spirit, I remember being completely immersed, submerged, overwhelmed by the Spirit of God. And in that moment, as a sign, I began to speak in an unknown tongue as the Spirit led me. I continue to stay hungry for more of God and his flow in my life to this day. The second question that Alton asks is, what is your church's vision to reach the world? What is the system to flow to the ends of the earth? He offers 5 very important elements for every church in the Acts 2 church model. The first is worship. Are we pursuing God passionately through obedience and corporate worship? The second is to connect, being engaging and maintaining loving relationships. He tells us that third, we need to go and evangelize locally and globally all those who need Jesus. Fourth, we need to serve using our gifts and talents for the church's mission. Finally, we need to grow, making disciples who make other disciples. My prayer is this information has been useful and will encourage you to live your life, your own personal life in Jesus, empowered by the Holy Spirit. Be blessed.